Hey gang, for a while now, Harley has been bleeding market share and struggling with its identity, and now its CEO is stepping down. But is this too little too late to save the company, or the spark that could kickstart a whole new era? Harley announced this week that Jochen Zeitz will be retiring as CEO after a 5-year stint. A tenure that has been marked by absolutely plummeting demand for Harley-Davidson's motorcycles. And for a lot of good reasons why, which we will get into. Harley's board announced that it's already started the search for a replacement, but Zeitz will remain as CEO until that replacement is found. And it's unclear if Zeitz is just retiring or if he was asked to step down. And that distinction is important because the question is, could his stepping down signal a realignment back to the core values that the fan base feels like the company had been abandoning? Answer, maybe. Let's dig into it. First, let's address who Jochen Zeitz is. Zeitz gained notoriety after he took the German company Puma and brought it back from the brink of bankruptcy. And that reputation as a turnaround artist got him named as the CEO of Harley-Davidson in 2020. But he had already been part of the board of directors of Harley since 2007. His hardwire branded strategy that he brought to the company focused on touring bikes and large cruisers. And some insiders have credited Zeitz's leadership for keeping the company afloat over the course of COVID. But his entire tenure has been marred by plummeting sales. Harley's already falling demand from 2023 plummeted another 36% over the course of 2024. In Q4 alone, they lost $147 million. And the Livewire brand, continues to hemorrhage millions of dollars in losses as well. And that lack of end market demand is forecasted to continue into the near future, which is leaving the confidence of dealers and investors understandably shaken. And you'd think that would prompt promotions and lower prices to boost sales. Yeah, not so much. You may have seen videos lately all over the motorcycle YouTube space talking about how Harley has just reduced the prices of their 2025 models. But the bad news here is that to adapt to the changing industry, and especially imminent incoming tariffs, company executives are now warning that they're about to increase the price of their bikes. Top executives recently told a congressional committee that Harley's facing devastating and indefensible tariffs from the European Union. Namely 56% tariffs on American-made bikes that are sold in Europe. Harley-Davidson bike prices could rise to an astonishing 6 figures. A Road Glide that typically sells for $28,000 in the US could sell for $124,000 in Denmark. Damn! That's mind-boggling that anyone would buy their bikes at those prices. And this is already amidst growing concerns in the motorcycle community that Harley has already priced themselves out of the market for everyday riders. But in a bizarre twist, Trump may actually end up being the hero of Harley-Davidson. In response to Trump's reciprocal tariffs, the EU has signaled that they want to negotiate a 0-for-0 trade deal for all trade goods with the US. And maybe I'm jumping the shark here because Trump is already asking for more in an opening negotiation salvo, but this could literally save Harley-Davidson. The question remains though, even if that does come to pass, will Harley-Davidson lower prices to US-based consumers? Because that is not in line with where Jochen Zeitz had been controversially taking the company. So let's take a look at that for just a minute. You know, it does not seem like coincidence that Jochen Zeitz is stepping down after a very tumultuous year of political controversy. And this was all started last year when Robbie Starbuck did an expose that exposed Harley's very controversial and woke DEI programs. A political stance that doesn't really align with the vast majority of the brand's community members. And the backlash against the brand, it was immediate and it was loud. So much so that at Sturgis last year, the largest Harley event on the planet, the Harley-Davidson tents were absolute ghost towns. And even at the time last year, people warned that not firing Zeitz would have dire consequences. And that seems to have borne out true. But as it turns out, the sudden microscope that got turned on Harley-Davidson and Zeitz because of those controversial programs, it revealed that those programs were just the tip of the iceberg. Zeitz was already facing major criticism for not connecting with the brand's culture, and he angered union workforces by moving the Rev Max production to Thailand. And with this week's news of him retiring, dealers have been pretty outspoken about hoping that the next CEO has a much better understanding of Harley's distinct identity. Be someone who will focus on rebuilding the relationship with the dealer network, and an individual that will focus on the long-term welfare of the company. I mean, Zeitz's antagonistic relationship with the dealers, treating them as competitive business partners, yeah, that proved to be kind of a failed strategy. None of this is particularly surprising, though, if we take a bit of a deeper look. At the time, last year, Harley did reverse course and backtrack on those controversial programs. They ended diversity quotas and they ended diversity spend goals with their vendors and suppliers, at least publicly facing it on paper. But as it turns out, that scrutiny revealed that Harley was going exactly where Zeitz was guiding it, on purpose, and had been doing so for decades, with other members of the board who shared his views for decades. Writers who have nostalgic memories of Harley were ignoring what was right out in the open. Like that Zeitz had openly said he wanted Harley to be an all-electric brand, or that his openly stated goal was to sell less bikes at higher prices, just openly farming the loyalty and nostalgia of the community. Or that he wanted to reimagine Harley culture as an anti-capitalistic culture. And riddle me this, Batman, but why is it always these super rich fat cats that make $43 million a year in salary or have 50-acre ranches in South Africa that, against all logic, suddenly become anti-capitalists? But Zeitz is an activist. He started the B Team with Richard Branson, whose stated goal is to get more like-minded activist leaders into prominent roles in other companies. None of the controversy was by accident. It was by design. And that same community nostalgia obscured the fact that Harley, once held up as the quintessential American brand motorcycle company, really wasn't anymore. Less than 1% of Harley is individually owned. Almost 80% of it is owned by globalist investment firms like BlackRock, Vanguard, and other similar companies. But look, I get it. The people that work on the front lines of Harley at the dealerships and the service centers, they're good people. And they still see Harley as the all-American brand it once was. And they aren't part of the board or the upper management structure that has gotten Harley completely lost in the woods. But it has been lost in the woods for a while now. And look, we rode a Heritage Softail Classic back in the day. But as long as Harley stays lost in the woods, I can't in good conscience give them my money. But in the interim, I am always on the lookout for a good used Harley. But that is why this change announced this week could be great news for Harley. Because I, like most of you, I'm sure, hope that this signals that Harley is trying to right the cultural ship and get back on the right path. And I assure you that if they do, the sales will come back. But that all depends on who replaces Zeitz and what philosophy they bring to it, because he had a lot of allies on that board of directors. I'm hoping for the best. We'll just have to wait and see.
I hate waiting.
What do you think is going to happen? Where do you think Harley is headed with this change? Tell us all about it in the comments below. And in the meantime, we'll keep bringing you along for our rides. And until then, we'll see you in the next one.